Hey, Troya. Um, it's me. Today's wisdom is a lot different from last night's. So last night's we kind of talked about death and how it's a natural process and everything else, and it's okay, right? But um, today we're going to talk about the opposite, life, and what it means to get it and have it through the grace of God. So God wanted us to be obedient from the gate, just to do what He wanted us to. So it started off when He created Adam, and He asked Adam to pretty much name everything, to subdue the earth, but also to like replenish the fields by finding the way to seed the land with everything. Um, he also gave Adam Eve as a companion to help Adam. Obviously, it's kind of made like that. So Eve was like Adam's wife. God also allowed Adam into the Garden of Eden, which he would visit Adam. And one of the things he told Adam not to do while he was in the garden was to not eat of the tree of life or of the tree of good and evil. Regretfully, as the story goes, Satan, since he's has already fell from heaven at this point, tricked Eve, because God had told Adam, but tricked Eve into not only eating of the fruit, but then convincing Adam to go eat of the fruit, disobeying God. God is fair and just, so He told Adam not to do it, and told him that the punishment would be surely death. Satan, twisting the words of that, saying that, oh, well, God's lying, because that's kind of the principle why Lucifer fell. But since they disobeyed, Lucifer got what he wanted, and God cast Adam and Eve out of the garden so they wouldn't eat of the tree of life and live forever. So man was sentenced to death after that, because Adam was bound to die eventually. Now we'll go into another lesson about that. So obedience, right? You follow the story continually on, and now that man has subdued the earth, that man started doing stuff that didn't please God. Worshiping other gods. There was a lot of angels that had fallen that were now mating with humans. So God was like, you know what? I'm just gonna wash this away, but I'm gonna let Noah know that it's coming, a direct descendant of Adam. So Noah, being obedient, right, built an ark. That ark saved lives. Through the obedience of Noah, life was preserved. And God, even when He did it, not lying, said that, hey, do you know what? I'll never flood the earth again. You're welcome. Not like that. Pretty much said I wouldn't do it again. But you fast forward the clock, right? And through obedience, through the descendants of Adam, you get to, this is going to be a longer video, Trillia, so get ready. It's probably going to be like 5 or 6 minutes. As you fast forward the clock, you get to this guy named Abraham. Superior faith in God, but just needed obedience. But he was so obedient. This is kind of a pretense to where the story gets to, but Abraham was going to kill his son, but God sent down an archangel to stop him. That's how powerful Abraham's faith was. It took an archangel from heaven to stop this man from driving a knife into his kid, which when you watch this video is going to sound a little weird, but it's true. And so God, in that sense, at that point, was like, do you know what, Abraham? You have so much faith, your descendants are going to be like the stars in the sky and the sands of the sea. And so we all kind of say like we're descendants of Father Abraham, because that's the God that we serve, the God of Abraham, Jacob, and Isaac. But through that, Joseph ending up in Egypt, which we'll get to, you'll love how it all plays out. you kind of get to this Hebrew who just survived like this real big annihilation, raised as a prince. But through obedience, God ends up liberating the people of Abraham to freedom, to get to the promised land through this guy named Moses, who had phenomenal faith in God. And God even rewarded Moses with something that's extremely important, which is where I'm going to get to now. So God laid down what we called the Ten Commandments. It's very commonly referred to. I'm going to actually make sure I don't do this in any other order, because I know that I've been going like not verse by verse with you right now, Etrulia, but the Ten Commandments are kind of put in order on purpose. People remember the important ones, which are good to remember, but all the commandments are important and their order is essential. One second. And I don't like going off like Google, like let me find it in Exodus real quick. Okay, here we go. So in the Ten Commandments, and I'm gonna go over the ones that people don't really go over, because you hear like don't murder nobody, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not lie, thou shalt not steal. Those ones are common, truly. And when we go verse by verse, trust me, I'm gonna hit them all, but I'm just gonna label the first couple ones. The very first one, which is the most important one, is thou shalt have no other gods before me. That's God just pretty much saying like, okay, here's the deal, because you humans are crazy. I made you. So if you guys don't get this part, like get this one right. I am the number one, right? And then the second commandment is like, hey, next, don't make no images from anything you think that is in heaven or that's on earth or that's in the waters, and start worshiping it, because y'all are just humans. Y'all don't get it. You don't understand. So stop using that power of worship and love and cherish to something that doesn't receive it. I promise you. The way that God made the algorithm of the universe, I guess, the program of the cosmos, right? It doesn't do anything to do that. I mean, Satan gathers more power if you start worshiping money or if you start worshiping anything besides God, because it just takes away. All right. It says, thou shalt not misuse the name of the Lord your God. So you're going to have a lot of people that pretense this in all kinds of ways, like, oh, you said a curse word with the Lord's name in it. Trulia, when we get more in depth, the Lord's name shall never be used in vain. And I'm not even going to like blast it on the internet like that, because there's no place for it like that. But I'll go over his name with you. It's God is not the name. That's just the reference that the English language uses for the creator, I suppose. And it's okay to feel like when you say God, you're referring to the creator, because he has many names. But in his name, don't. Yeah, I mean, it's like someone saying your name messed up. I wouldn't attempt it. He doesn't like it either. This is a really long video. Cool though. And then it goes into honoring the Sabbath day, making sure it's holy, and then we'll go into the Sabbath, but very important commandment. And the next one, which is a crucial one, it says, honor your mother and father so that you may live long and on the land. He's pretty much saying that the wisdom that your parents have, believe it or not, they're programmed naturally to have usually the best intent for you. It may not be the nicest love. You see a lot of people to where, or maybe you don't, hopefully, but they end up disregarding their parents' wisdoms or forthcomings because they're their parents and they think they know better. But God, in all of his omnipotent wisdom, was like, look it, the people that really care the most for you are usually your parents, unless they're like sickos or weirdos or just demon possessed or whatever. Those people usually have your best intentions in mind. Honor them, you might live longer. That's pretty much what he's saying. And then it goes down the list of the ones that, we have like laws for to stop people from doing, like murder, don't commit adultery, don't steal, don't give false testimony to your neighbor, don't covet. But continue on. So he left these laws down to obey. He wants you to obey. He also laid down things for Moses to do after he created the Ark of the Covenant, for different things that people have done. So God was like, to wash away people's sins, there's a price to show that they repent. You fast forward the clock as the nation of Israel actually rises. Joshua being obedient to taking over different nations after Moses had passed, with Aaron running the church, to all kinds of things occurring, to where the kings of Israel start standing up. As the kings of Israel stand up, you have phenomenal kings. To one of the greatest kings, King David. You'll hear the story of David and Goliath. David was actually not nobility. David was actually common, and he just earned the favor of the king of Israel. And God, in all his wisdom, had very wise kings at the time. Can you imagine the president of the United States or the king of England being like, do you know what? I know you're not noble, but your heart's so pure and you're such a great example of what the Heavenly Father would want to lead a nation. I want you to lead it. It says it in a lot more words, of course. But as David led Israel, he wasn't perfect. We're all sinners. But David was very blessed by God and very, 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 very wise, which gave lead to Solomon, which I told you about all these past videos. Solomon was an extremely wise king of Israel. Fast forward the clock, right? You blow through the kings of Israel. There's a lot of stories in the Bible that continue to happen. But the most important thing, kind of like last night when we talked about John 3:16, God so loved the earth, he gave his only begotten son. With that is life. So boom, here comes the next commandment, right? Christ shows up, the Son of God, and he's like, do you know what? After all he survives, and after all the tribulations that this human God is experiencing, he's just trying to tell everybody, like, well, just letting you guys know that my Father in heaven loves everybody, but there's things that you guys aren't doing right. And the biggest thing is, if he loves you, why aren't you guys loving each other? Just love everyone like you love yourself. It will be a lot better if you just loved everyone. That was the last commandment. Christ came and said, just love everyone. And then as the apostles started writing the books of the New Testament, there was messages from these holy men that continued to roll in, like John 3:16, right? So whoever believes, right, the obedient part, whoever believes in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. So there's the happiness, right? And then the obedience continues to where Revelations is written, and obviously there's a lot of stipulations on Revelations, but I figured this video is long enough, I might as well give you the potatoes. Since you got all the meat. But that's obedience, right? To God. Follow the laws that's written. That's the wisdom for the night. But to give you the potatoes, since we're already at Revelation, it's always like that thing that never touches. So, in pretense, only God knows the future. Nobody else does. Not Satan, even though he's been around forever. So he knows the past. Like, he's immortal. When God created him, he made him perfect. He said, Lucifer, you're going to be perfect. So he made Lucifer perfect. But Lucifer fell because of his jealousy to Christ, because he's like, why is Christ better than me if I'm perfect? And God was like, well, this is my son, Lucifer. You're a perfect angel. You were made perfect, and you will live forever, but you get cast out. Long story short, he doesn't know the end. But as curious as humans are, Trillia, right? God, knowing how curious we all know we are curious. We all want to know how it goes down. He was like, fine. You may not know the hour or the second or the minute or ever when it comes, but here, this is exactly how it will end. Boom. And then during Revelations, there's things that we will continue to be obedient through. That's it. All right. I love you, princess, my world. Good night. Bye.